Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cootie, your art Sherpa, and today we're going to be doing another Holly Hobbie tribute painting. This is a fabulous story of a sweet girl in a wonderful little dress in Bluebonnets. Coming from Texas, you got to know that's close to my heart. We got the Indian paintbrush there, we got Bluebonnets, we've got the field. I'm going to show you every part of this process, step-by-step explanations. You guys can make this for yourself at home. Now, if you check the description below, I always include all the materials that I use, everything that I'm going to do. But also, and even more importantly, if you go to the link where the traceable is, and you can find those in two places now. You can find them in the description. And if you check that little floating eye they call it an eye card, it's going to pull it down and it'll take you right there too. There's step-by-steps there. There's information on different skin color mixing, just everything that you could possibly need to know to create this. Actually, right now, I think this is the page I'm most proud of. On the mic today is my husband, John.
Hey, guys.
He is going to be tracking me with all the cameras because, again, our goal is to show you how you would paint this, make sure you're part of the whole process and all the steps. So he's going to be taking care of that. You can see the study right here that I did before we began this project, so I could get a little sense of how we're going to create it. I think I'm ready to just jump into this.
Are you?
I'm super ready.
Okay.
You guys ready?
I'm ready.
1, 2, 3. Shoo. Nope. Can't trick you.
Someday.
You
want to trick me?
Hmm?
You want to trick me? You
Eh,
can be tricked.
no, it's no good if you like let me do it. It's no good.
But
we're going to talk about materials.
Do you know what they don't know?
So many things. I hope they don't know some stuff because I'm teaching art. So like that's the whole thing. Is hopefully they don't know some things I teach them.
Your hat's cute.
They don't know my hat's cute.
I just realized. I was just thinking that.
This was made for me. Isn't that sweet?
It's very sweet.
All right, let's look at our materials now that you're being all sweet and cute and nice.
Let me fix that camera.
Hmm? What camera? Which camera? Okay. Maybe I moved in a weird location. Okay. So we're just making sure you guys can see that palette really well. It's just important when you're trying to mix paint for yourself for the first time. I don't really think any part of the painting process is intrinsically hard, but sometimes just knowing what the steps are can be really overwhelming. So that's why we like to do it the way that we do. On the easel today is an 11 by 14. I'm waiting for John to catch up with me.
I didn't know.
There. On the easel today is an 11 by 14 kind of little canvas panel. It's part of the Artist Love series. I get them in little packs. You can see it's pretty economical. You could also do this on a 9 by 12 because those are completely related aspect ratios. Now, this particular, we always do wishes on our canvas, but there's some real close ones coming out for me. And this one is about young women. And my wish, and of course, I wish this for young men too, but my wish is that all young women grow up to be strong and valued. And I mean like all young women. And that all women, regardless of color or where you're from or what you believe in, that we're all lifted up and we value ourselves, we value each other, and we are valued in the world. We also have some healing for Kimberly. She needs some healing and also some positivity for a new job opportunity in her family. And then I have another fun little wish, which is that we all have a perfect Holly Hobbie moment and get a good painting out of this painting. So those are my wishes today. On the palette, what I'm planning to use, and I love doing test paintings because it helps me affirm my colors. I'm going to just use the Cad Red Medium. If you have a different red, don't walk away from the painting. It's okay. I'm going to use Quinacridone Magenta, Doxazine Purple, Ultramarine Blue, and Phthalo Blue. You'll see why during the lesson. Some Phthalo Green, Cad Yellow, Yellow Ochre, so that's 2 yellows, Bird Sienna, Titanium White, and Mars Black. I think it's going to be really fun. You're going to like the limited palette. It gives us a really good result. If you are using the traceable, and I'll show you how to transfer the image on, we're doing this just like we did the girl in lavender. I think you guys got a great result from that. I was really happy with that outcome. And so we're going to try to duplicate that this time. Again, so you guys get the best possible outcome on your paintings. I love seeing all your beautiful lavender girls in group. Now, here I have my green, here I have my brown. I'm going to put these out because we're going to do an acrylic ground. We've been doing a lot of that lately. It is not the only way to paint a painting by any means. So many ways to start an art project. But this is a great way to start, and it's a good technique to know about. So I'm just putting these out together because we're going to be kind of mixing them together and just painting the whole background. So I've got these. I've got an artist knife. I'm going to take out a little bit of brown and green and mix them together, and it makes a very deep green. Not a nice deep dark green. That's just 1 part green to 1 part brown for the whole background of the canvas. One of my very favorite little background colors to mix up. And it doesn't have to be thoroughly mixed. It's okay if your canvas is a little bit streaky. You just want to have this basis to build everything up on. Now, I have my number 30 short handle Ruby Satin Bright. You just want a brush that's really wide. I was going to actually grab one of my big TheArtSherpa brushes. I think it's like a number 32, but it wasn't clean.
Sharon had a question for you.
Hi, Sharon. We're going to just paint the whole background with this color. Hi, Sharon.
She would like to know if it's okay to mix different grades of paint.
Yes.
Like student paint with pro paint.
Yeah. It's so super okay, and you should totally do it. And it's nice actually to have different grades of paint in. If you are starting out on student paints to discover whether or not you're actually interested in this whole art thing, and you may start out with some more economic paint. And then as you go, you might be like, you know, I'm going to upgrade my paint. I'd like to try some of these other colors. I'd like to try from some of these companies, but will it go with my paints that I already have? Maybe you have craft paint in a bottle, right? And you're like, gosh, will golden paint go with craft paint? They won't advertise it, mostly because it would be strange if they did. But yes, of course, it totally does. And you can go through and upgrade color by color. My suggestion is to start with white as your first upgrade. Titanium white into professional paint. Your first upgrade. And then it's nice to get into the yellows after that, because yellows really can be impacted by quality. And then the reds. It's just fun to upgrade. Just upgrade. One little tube at a time. Other methods you can use to upgrade is you can go by what you're going through the fastest. So as you use up a tube of paint, you just go replace it with a brand or color that you like better. And that way you can do it over time and nothing goes to waste. All right, see how that's just a deep green background?
I do.
Look, you've started. Everything else has to kind of come out okay, because you've gotten that out here and the painting is begun. Nothing to worry about. I'm going to put my painting to the side, put the rest of my paint out. And while I'm putting it out, we can take some more colors and then I'll go over what I have out again. So do we have any more questions?
Let me go back up here and see. They like your hat. They want to know where that came from.
That was a gift from a community member. It was really sweet, and I hadn't gotten to wear this in a little while, so I was very excited to do so. All right, let me get some more green out. Even though I had the green and brown here, I'm still going to put out some more green.
I see our moderators catching a lot of wonderful questions. Like,
are they?
Where the skin tone videos, so they're putting links up for that kind of stuff.
Excellent. And here's the thing, like we've got the links for each individual skin tone video, but something to remember is on this webpage, on the webpage for this, I made sure you guys had worksheets to help you with skin tones. I made sure those videos were linked in there, that you had all the up-to-date Holly Hobbie information that you might need. So you are really going to love this webpage. I am super proud of it.
There's a bunch of Hobby Holly hullabaloo.
Holly Hobbie hullabaloo. I think I got some green on me, so it's the beginning of the day. Yeah, I love Holly Hobbie.
You've been marked by the phthalo.
I've been marked by, well, I think this, yeah, the phthalo green and burnt sienna came up and gutted me. And that's okay. I am not going to put out, well, no, I have to. I got to put out my red now. I'm going to put out my red. This red, not my Quinn until we get to the up-close colors, or also skin tone. I'm not going to get the quinacridone out, but she is definitely intended for this palette. So we're not skipping that. I'm just letting my canvas dry as I'm putting out my paint. Sometimes you can double task to improve your efficiency. Not that painting needs to be efficient. I need to be efficient. You don't have to be efficient. All right. You guys ready?
Yeah.
So I look forward when someone asks me, was this inspired by Holly Hobbie? Because the thumbnail says Holly Hobbie Tribute. We mention her a whole bunch of times. And then Were you inspired by Holly Hobbie? It's going to be my favorite. All right, yellow ochre, cad yellow. So we've got these two yellows to work with. This is going to help us gray colors out. I have phthalo blue and ultramarine, and we do actively use both throughout the painting. I have cad red medium. You could use naphthol red medium, dioxazine purple, burnt sienna, phthalo green, and some titanium white. So my first process I've got to do is get this very distant background color. And to make sure that I can get really scumbly and scruffly and unpainterly, I'm going to make sure this is dry all the way, because if it's not dry, it can start to lift back up from the canvas. If you've ever had that happen, it could be a binding problem with your paint. So first thing to check is it dry?
So while she's doing that, I'm going to say, hello, everybody. Love to see you guys. Love hanging out with you guys. Do make sure to, if you're using student paints especially, make sure not to use any heat when you're drying those, because it can cause some weird color change and shift, and sometimes you'll see the paint will lighten or darken if you use heat. That's color shift. So if you don't use heat, that'll reduce that. Just air, as you can see that she's using there. Although you can't really feel that there's no heat, but what I can tell you is she doesn't use heat because she knows it causes color shift, and we don't want color shift when we're doing this. So there you go.
There we go.
I did. I talked about color shift.
Woohoo! That's always the best thing to talk about.
Paint drying. It's my hobby.
So I am going to take advantage of the fact that I have this green already mixed up as I'm going through. I have a number 10 Cambridge Bright. I'm going to get this wet, take out the extra water from it with my little towel here, and I'm going to begin the process of painting this distant field. And how we're going to do that is we want these colors to be a little bit muted. We want to push them back. We want them to be out of focus. So that's our first fun goal. And the good news about this is it's a pretty easy technique to do. So I'm going to get a bunch of my green here and my yellow ochre kind of worked together. But I want it to be, and I'm not using the cad because I want this to be sort of distant. And I'm going to come back here and begin this process of just brushing, lightly brushing back and forth this light green. All right. And so what you're going to see is that the green from underneath is showing through. Isn't that kind of exciting? So we just get this going. And we're letting a lot of this green show through. So it's like one of those fun times where you're like, wow, I get to be a little bit messy in my painting, and it totally works out in my favor, and we get to go, yeah, completely works out in your favor. And this is just a process. So you'll see lots and lots of that green underneath coming out. You can get a little more. Just keep going. So sometimes it'll be a little bit darker and sometimes it'll be a little bit lighter. You can press fairly hard with your brush. This brush, this number 10 Cambridge, is a mix of bristles, that's from a hog, and synthetic filaments like Tacklon. So it's very resilient against acrylic paint because acrylic paint is hard on your brushes. So you want to look for brushes that are made for the product and can take a beating. And that doesn't necessarily mean a big price tag. That's just about getting in there and really feeling them and making sure that they are robust and capable of withstanding the excellent and vigorous painting that you'll be doing. I thought that was a Bill and Ted. Excellent painting, dudes.
Now,
excellent.
I see there's a unicorn behind your painting, but is there a story behind it?
My unicorn? The one behind my painting?
You know, is there a story behind this painting?
The painting or the unicorn?
The painting.
Right here?
Yeah, no, the painting you're doing.
The painting behind that I'm doing here.
Yeah.
You said unicorn. You
I was joking with you.
If you say unicorn, then I'm just like,
You're a unicorn?
I can think nothing else. I don't know about you other girls, but like if someone says unicorn to me, my brain just flatlines and I'm like, where is it? Where? I'm never going to outgrow that. I'm going to be like 95 going, where is the unicorn? The story behind this painting. So, which is a good question as we scumble along with our little muted yellow and green back and forth vigorously. When I was a girl, it was probably about midway through the Holly Hobbie phenomenon. we were still in the unnamed girls phase where the girls were wearing bonnets and you didn't see their faces. It was before the cartoon, which I was not as fond of, because I really like the unnamed girl. That being said, they were on lunch boxes, they were on everything. It was kind of like leading up to the Lisa Frank fad. And I was fascinated by how all of these children in these paintings could be any children. And it got me thinking, I think, in a different way artistically. And it's definitely part of my art DNA. When I got a crazy hair to do Holly Hobbie, I didn't even know that there was a new Hulu special. That was like some fortuitous synergy that happened there.
She felt a disturbance in the girl force.
I felt a disturbance in the force. I will say that to John. I'll go, I feel a disturbance in the force. It's Holly Hobbie time. And he'll look at me like, as if any of these words are meaningful to me, but okay.
Holly Hobbie. I mean, like, I remember
you had a sister.
Yeah, she was into strawberry shortcake.
Well, and I think Holly Hobbie led into the strawberry shortcake phenomenon. I think she led into that whole toy franchise.
Yeah.
There were books and all 80s. Of this. I'm taking this kind of down as I go and just enjoying the little scumbling feeling of the whole thing, right? There we go. We'll just...
Now, are you thinking of doing a boy version of this?
I am working on a boy version of this. I have found some fabulous images of little boys in that same vintage feel where they're kind of, like the nameless boys, like we don't know them, we don't see their faces. Very Huck Finn, very cute. I've just got to figure out if they're going to be too long, I think, for the thing. But I was actually like playing with the idea that we might do a multi-day painting. Now, as we're going, I'm going to add just this dark green back again. And a couple of places, right, like so say I'm in this upper third. Watch, I'm going to work on the edge of my brush, and I'm going to make some of these. If you look in the photo, the reference photo, there's little darker patches of grass. Darker patches of grass.
Those are denser patches of chlorophyll.
Denser patches of chlorophyll are back here. When I saw this little girl, though, and I just really wanted to paint her, actually, in some sense, even a little more than the girl in the lavender. And it was the Bluebonnets and just the sweetness. It was almost a pillowcase dress, and there were so many things about it that just were really engaging to me. So I'm going to come right here and add a little more of this dark value. Just kind of, can you see how we're making this background area have like character and personality and all the things that we really need to have when we're trying to tell a story about something distant and out of focus ahead. So, like, what's wonderful about this character is she's lifting her hat and she's looking out into the field in front of her. So you can imagine, a parent in standing outside a beautiful white farmhouse calling to her.
It's optimistic.
Huh?
It's optimistic.
It's very optimistic.
The sunlight's on her back. She's looking up into the field ahead of her. She's surrounded by flowers.
It's an incredibly nice feeling. Now I'm going to pull out my CAD red, but to help it feel distance, I'm actually going to get some of that dark green mix into it. Can you see how we're doing?
Yeah.
And this is going to take it more into a brick space, and that's going to help it feel receded. I'm also going to take and make sure that I wipe off any extra paint onto my rag because I don't want to be too loaded for this next bit. And very softly, and you really need to do it as softly as you can. And I'm going to wipe off even more paint. We're going to just add some of these little patches of what would be distant Indian paintbrush, right? That's what we're actually talking about here, is some distant Indian paintbrush. And the red, even when you go on your palette, you'll think, oh, that doesn't even feel like a flower. But as you put it on your canvas, I'm going to switch to the corner of my brush here. You're going to see that it helps you create those soft spots, those little patches of whimsical flowers. And I want patches of whimsical flowers.
Yep. I had a super crazy thing happen in chat. It took me a minute to figure out what was going on.
Is it like good crazy or?
Well, Yes.
We're done with YouTube crazy.
At the end of the story, it's good.
Okay. All right. I'm going to continue to wiggle my brush back and forth, lightly planting. Think about, okay, I'm going to let John tell me the story, but I want you to think about this if you're painting with me at home. Imagine as you're painting these red brush strokes that you're planting Indian paint brushes all through this field. Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
You're planting wildflowers. All right, tell me the story, John, while I'm planting wildflowers.
Okay. Sherpa Sharon, who's with us.
Hi, Sherpa Sharon.
Big art hugs to Sherpa Sharon, because she's also a law enforcement officer. And she puts her life on the line every day going out there and serving.
Yes.
And she is at home right now recovering from a bullet wound from last night where she had a run-in out there. But she's doing okay.
So
and she's
glad you're okay.
So thank you for serving and being out there with us. And
thank you very, very much to every first responder. You guys put yourselves out there so we can all have a nice painting Sunday, and I really appreciate that. Wherever you are, all over the world, for all the people who stand up for others, I really appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
So we're still painting flowers?
Yes.
But now we know who we're painting them for. It's actually nice to know who you're painting for. It really helps. You know, I often paint for my daughters. When I'm designing paintings for you guys, I will think about your daughters. I try to, you know, you'll notice that we try to make sure that there's a diversity so that we're all painting our children. And remember to always make your paintings speak to your life and speak to you. So I always try to give you the information you need to customize these stories so you can make them as relevant as possible in your own life. Just pulling this forward. Isn't this nice? I have to say that I could just do this all day because it's just fun for me. I like to paint the distant flowers. I do. I'm going to take a little of my phthalo blue and ultramarine, and I'm going to again get this green into it, which is going to kind of deepen it and mute it a bit. I'll wipe off any little extra, and I'll come back here and I'll try to, because we want it to be distinctly blue, but we don't want it to pop too much. And actually, weirdly, I may need to add a little white so we can see it, if you get what I'm saying. There we go. Little distant. There we go. That's Bluebonnet. Bluebonnet blue. Out in the distance. On the corner. And you know, they do that little clustery thing, so it's fun to make little clusters that they could be growing out of. If you get the chance to make little clusters. And you should. And every time I plant a field of flowers, I don't know, I plant different flowers, so get ready.
Flowers, flowers, flowers.
Well, you do a study, and then you think about, like, well, what would I want different in the next version? You know, how would I want this to feel different and be different?
See, I wish I had this art vocabulary in high school. So
Really?
when I was sitting out in that field, my parents asked me what I was doing. I was like, I'm studying flowers.
Oh, study the flowers while you're out in the fields.
See, then I would have at least had an articulate answer to, I don't know.
I'm going to grab a little of my red as I move forward. It's okay that the blue's in there. Not going to hurt it, because I'm just creating the structure by which we're going to do some more refined painting as we come forward. Because I really, really think that you can't overplant your field.
No, clearly this field has demonstrated, you know, like cowbell, you can never have enough flowers.
You can never have enough flowers. I'm going to take my yellow ochre and mix it into my cad yellow and get a little bit of this green again. You can see it's making a nice lighter version. And I might even get some white into this. And I'm going to make sure that I come and get some patches of lighter. Can you see how this is very dry brushy?
Mm-hmm.
So this is really about not having too much paint on your brush. And if you need to wipe off, feel like you can. Feel entitled to wipe off paint where you need to. Just giving that little space. A little bit of the green that it would need. because this is spring and you want to spring up the greens a bit.
Okay. Kelly says, all right, I'm sorry. Can we revisit the unicorn thing? Why do you have a unicorn in the background?
Oh, my daughter painted me one.
I agree with her. She's like, we should at least cover this, Kelly.
My sweet adorable daughter painted me a unicorn for Christmas, and my sweet adorable son painted me an owl.
And that's the owl over there.
So that's where those came
think
from.
I can
And they are my
him
most
from
treasured
this
possessions.
Hold on.
Like if you're talking about like what would I grab? I would not grab my own paintings going out. I would grab my kids' art.
Oh, there he is.
All right, do we feel like we're getting a nice background that's super muted, that has that wonderful, let's really look at that and take that in. How do we feel about that? While I'm looking at that, I'm feeling like I could have just a few, I'm going to get a little bit of my yellow into this mixture right here. So it's not the clean, there's a little bit of that green-brown mixture I put in earlier. I'm getting some red, so it takes me into an orange. I'm going to just make sure that there's some, just a couple little spots. I really wanted that the first time and I didn't get it, and I feel like it's important for a wildflower painting. Little spots of heat in the distance where maybe these flowers are clustered, right? We're clustering them. Clusters, flower clusters. Sorry. And a little bit here. Good to put a little bit of that in. Okay, got that going. Ooh, I feel like that's a thing, right? And we got a little bit of blue, but we can still take our phthalo and maybe even get a little dots into it. Take that and make sure that these blues have a little bit of a pop too. You just want to kick it a little. Kick it. Kick it a little bit. Where you going to kick it? Kick it a little bit.
Now, when you're done with the background, if you don't mind, I'd like for you to just take a quick moment, turn around, have a sippy, so we can have a front full head-on shot of that.
Really gorgeous hat.
And the background.
You know, perfect. Yeah, I'd love to because I got to heat my coffee. How about you guys get a good shot of the background? I go heat my coffee.
You just wander off, and I'll go do that.
Is that cool? You take them on a tour, and I'll
go mute you.
Go do.
We could go wandering around the studio.
I mean, I feel like we could.
We could totally.
No, someone's helping me with the coffee. They're like,
go sans host.
That's ridiculous.
They're all like, "No, Sherpa, stay on there. He's horrible when you're left alone." He stumbles after about 2 minutes.
So ready for the bluebonnets to bloom. Can you tell? I'm getting all ready for the bluebonnets to bloom. All right. I feel like I've made lots and lots of room for my bluebonnets to bloom. All right. I'm going to turn around. You take a tour of that.
All right. Hold on a second.
Wonderful.
There you go.
How do we do that?
There you go.
And zoom in on it?
Oh, yeah. I got to get over to the camera. Here it goes. Look at that. Ta-da! Oh, look. And you can see the owl over there, too. All right. Let's come back to center.
That's really wonderful. So I'm getting my coffee and I'm going to have a sip. If you guys have any questions about this or anything, I'm happy to take them. But if I answer them, it's okay.
Let's see here. Let me go over and look at this. There were some questions over here. Oh, now, your references. You have a lot of them.
Yes.
These come from, where do you get all these references
I get them from lots of places, but here's what I do about my references. I have a lot of stuff about this on my website and in my group for you guys, because you guys are out there getting them too. Sometimes I'll use an open source site like Pixabay or Upsplash. Sometimes I'll use Paint My Photo. Sometimes I use one of many sites that allow me to pay for the right to use a photo as a reference, and we call them and make sure it's okay to use them in the paintings and everything before we do this, because we don't want to take anybody's intellectual property. It's not our jam.
No.
And then I try to change it up and add to, like, I use them actually generally as references so that I can get them into the painting space.
Yeah, generally they're not like, they're pretty easy going with us.
Don't go shopping on Pinterest and just paint people's stuff.
No. But
and
if you call, it's like
well, personal use. Like if it's going to just quietly go on your wall and nobody's going to know, I think that's personal use. But if you are going out there and you're reselling art and you're just repainting stuff on Pinterest, that's probably not a good idea. That's a copyright issue. My 2 cents, but you do you. I'm just advising you. You do you. I'm gonna do my thing. I really dislike being sued.
Yeah.
I wonder who's like, yeah, yeah, some
Oh,
litigation today.
Neil would really like to know about that framed painting on the wall behind you. So, that's always a question that comes up.
There we go.
That one right there. Just like over there.
Yes. So that
sorry.
is my Light of the Art Angel, and that's a part of Lifebook. So Lifebook is a year-long course created by, I don't know where the camera went, Tamara Laporte.
There it goes.
And let's see if I can.
Slow down.
There we go.
There
And
slows down the camera.
what's really great about that is there's 28 teachers. Every week there's new classes. They're about well-being. They're about creativity. They're about healing.
Actually, I'm
I have
zoom
a
in on there a
class,
whole bunch.
several classes I'm teaching during the year. This particular angel is Tamara at the beginning of every life book has you create a guardian for your studio to help guide you in your journey. And you use words and messages that are important about the things that you're trying to attain this year and have in your studio. And I felt like as a teacher, I should do the project so that I was really in tune with this. I'm sure the moderators have links if you're interested in Lifebook. And that was a lot of fun. Using the tunes. Look at my unicorn is dabbing. Okay.
You're dabbing.
I guess that means dabbing is over at the point it's a unicorn on your mom's shirt. Okay. Wow. I didn't even warn you when you were there. This is very dry, and for the next stage, you do definitely want to make sure that your canvas is dry. I have here prepped already my traceable, and instead of using the original one that I drew, I actually printed this off the printer so that you guys could see me using something pretty much exactly what you have. Now, to make her big enough for the 11 by 14, I actually kind of enlarged her a bit to 112% on my printer. On this side, I have Ceril paper. It's listed below. This is the white Ceril. It's a transfer paper that you have for painting, and I'm using washi tape because it's a good low tack tape. So I'm going to put her off center towards the left. And I'm going to make sure I have some room to put forward facing flowers. Burnish down my tape with my nails. Burnish, burnish.
Burnish, burnish.
Burnish, burnish. And then all I do is I just trace over it. Then you just trace. Get your tracing on. Are you ready to get your tracing on?
Yeah. While you're doing that, can I ask you a question?
You can ask me so many questions.
Luann actually has a really good question for you. She says, John, have you and Cinnamon ever gone on a helicopter ride to see the Bluebonnets?
Yeah, no. I am afraid of heights. And I've had to be in a helicopter once. I was not an easy passenger. Was not my jam. But that sounds like a wonderful thing somebody not terrified of heights should absolutely do.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm just going to, this wonderful collar. Now, on this traceable, there is some information to help you know where shadows and lights are, because that can be really challenging. This hand is also a challenging bit because of the unusual positioning of it and the parts of it that are in light and dark. I found that I had to kind of simplify it in the painting and make that work. My tracing is really not good today. My tracing is off.
Ashley was wanting to know, is this going to be part of our labs program?
Yes.
Now, for you, those of you guys who don't know, we'll put a link up in here. Labs is our licensing program, so you can use this in your own artistic or creative business. You can find out more about that on the TheArtSherpa.com.
We try to help art teachers thrive and survive in this challenging economy.
Indeed. Make some money, yo.
Yeah, this is a goal that we have, because it's hard for creatives to do the business part of it. So that's what our labs program is about, is not just licensing the images to you guys so that you can enjoy teaching and have that as a supplemental income, but also just to help creatives navigate how challenging business can be. It is challenging. I just keep enough lines to be like, dude, I know there's some stuff here. Because I'm still going to really use the reference as my kind of anchor point for where I'm going to put shadows, but sometimes a little information when you're blocking out can be really helpful. when you take that first pass. Gotta take that first pass, right, guys?
Yeah.
And again, it's not about getting it like perfectly. You can see I'm not like, woo, I have to be like exactly on the lines. I just need to know where basic stuff is because we're going to paint it in. Now we're going to do exactly what we did last time with the girl in lavender because you guys really succeeded at that process. I'm going to show you how to get the hand kind of handled. Make sure you've got all the lines that you need. And then when you remove the painting, you should have a transferred image. Yep, I forgot the legs. That's why you tape it. You just saw why do I tape it down in 2 places? So that I can do this. Not that I couldn't have added them in, but that's why. And you can use that Ceril paper repeatedly. 1 sheet of paper can be used again and again. And I answer this because John didn't know that. He went to throw some out and I'm like, what? That's still good. He's like, are you serious? I'm like,
Yeah, I did.
yeah,
I crumpled some
super
up.
serious. Hmm?
I crumpled some up. I did. I was like, oh no.
Oh no. Now I'm going to mist my paint. This is going to help it keep from drying out because I don't really use a wet palette, though I do have a free video on how you can make one. I'm going to grab, I think, a small bright here. This is a number 4 Cambridge. I'm going to get it wet and I'm going to block in the hat. So the hat, first block of the hat, I'm going to take a little yellow ochre out. And in this particular case, I will put a little black out now. I will put it out. I don't use a ton of black in here, but I do use some. And I'm going to take a smidge of that black and gray my yellow ochre. Can you see how we're doing that? And so I'll use this to create several values on the hat. So if I come right here and I paint carefully around this spot, I can go right here along this brim line. There is a shadowed area. Definitely want to catch that. And then right here along the front roll of the hat, things are in shadow. You definitely want to catch that. And so it's good to get those in. And then as I'm going, I will kind of lighten everything up and even get a little white into it so that you start to see the values in the spaces of the objects that we have here. And where I can, I'll go ahead and take advantage of the wet into wet that I've got going on so that I get a nice blend.
Kelly
When
asks,
I'm coming on.
why do you use black instead of purple?
I could use purple. I've used purple. We did purple on my what was she? I blacked her out because she's like, she made me so stressed. The Silky.
So it's just painter's choice.
You could use, yeah, you could, but I want a more neutralizing kind of space, so I'm going to go ahead and use black and then get more into the subtlety of the hat on the second layer of the hat. Right now, just trying to get the hat blocked in. A little of my shadow, going to put that back. I don't want to lose it entirely. That's one of the cool things about this. Definitely want that. Out. Got to put the tops on and begin this. Now, these little white spots, I'll show you here in a clean area. See, there's a little white smudge there. It cleans up with just a wet brush. It goes right away, which is why I use that particular paper. So if you're ever like, why that paper? It's because it's made for painting. It does stick to acrylic paint, which many of them don't. Notice that I am kind of going circular in this hat.
Going circular?
Yeah, the brush strokes are circular to help inform that the hat is circular.
Is that like going plaid?
It's something. I'm going to come to this outer edge and add a highlight. So you can see I'm trying to find those values where the lights are on the hat. Not necessarily all the complexity of the color, but definitely want to do that. Now, to do the band, I'm going to do a neutral base, but that said, we will come add this is burnt sienna. I'm putting that into my ultramarine. And so when I grab a little white, you're going to see it's blue, but it's dark. And I'm going to go ahead and come around on the band. You don't have to be perfect here because there's, again, more layers coming up. So you're just trying to say, oh, some of my band is lighter and some of my band is darker. There you go. So now we have the basis of her hat in. That's the beginning. I'm going to get the basis of her skin in. So on her skin, what I really, really like is that we're going to work our burnt sienna, our yellow ochre, a little of our cad red, and our ultramarine blue. All right, so we're going to start with a base, which is a little bit of our burnt sienna, some cad red, maybe a little cad yellow. All right, it's going to be our base skin tone. And I'm mixing it with my brush. I could do it with my palette knife if I wanted to. A little more yellow. There's a nice base. And I can darken from here with the ultramarine. I'll show you. Getting a little more burnt sienna into it as I darken it. There's the shadow color. And this is really most of her arm under her hat. So we'll go ahead and take that. When you come up onto the hand, my recommendation is to set the paddle of the hand, which is this flat part coming across here, up to where you think the knuckles are, and then we'll paint the rest of it in. If your brush is not easily releasing paint, you can always add a little more water to it, and you can easily get a little more blue to make more of your shadow value.
I always like hearing you say the shadow value.
It's a thing, right? Now we can very carefully come into her thumb. One finger, next finger. There we go. We just want to get those worked in there. Underneath her dress, we're going to go ahead and put this as a base. We're going to come back. This is coat 1.
Oh, wait, you're way done. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. We're just going to get, and then after this, I'm going to come up to the other arm. So it's a very strong, this is not the only value we're putting in here. We put this in initially to help us get our basis, and then we create all the sunlit values as we go. Come up the arm. There you go. But you're going to find that this will help everything that we've got to do next. And sometimes this early work can help you find the values you need to find. I'm going to go ahead and get a little more ultramarine. Just right into my burnt sienna. So, we're not just putting some, adding black to darken our skin tone, though you can. It's sometimes nice to add something like the blue because it really helps you. I'm going to make sure that in these brush strokes, see, I'm kind of coming out here. I'm arcing that out. That helps inform the shape. When you get that, rinse out. Go ahead and get this next color that you have, right? I'm going to come right here from the outside edge, kind of shading in. And when I have that, I like to take the paint off my brush and with the little edges here, see I'm blending? Just to make sure that that's somewhat soft. Come down here. I'm going to make a highlight on the outside of this leg. And then a little bit in this calf right here. So I'm leaving a little dark right there to this outside edge, but I'm highlighting the calf a titch. You can come up to your hand and just a little bit of this outside edge and
wait.
Oh. A smidge.
You're all over the place, man.
Of your fingers. Yeah, I am a little bit.
You're like running. I'm
going to hit a little bit down into the elbow, babe.
That's okay.
And then the thumb.
Once
These
I'm on
are
the
just
arm,
the first pass and then a little bit on the thumb. So you've got this basis here where you're like, oh, I see some highlights, I see some stuff. This is not the final skin value, but it gives you that wonderful starting point. Everything here we're going to be doing is going to be a mix of our burnt sienna, and I may even pull my palette knife into it. We use so much of it, so I'm going to pull out some of my burnt sienna and my ultramarine blue to make this gray that's going to be her little dress.
Sandy was asking, is it always best to work dark to light when doing skin?
I find it's best to do your mid-tones and reserve your lightest tone and your darkest dark to the very end, and then just keep lightening and darkening from there, is my 2 cents, but it's just 2 cents. You guys see how I've got kind of this blue-gray color?
I do.
I'm working out. So I'm going to get a little bit of my white into it. And I'm going to begin putting in the shadows. So if you come down here and you just use the photo reference to go, where do I have these shadows that are on my dress? First pass, you're just putting shadows. I'm going to keep working the skirt. Just keep working the skirt.
You're not going to psych me out and go down and work on her shoes?
She ain't going to have no shoes. She could be wearing them, but we don't know. They're in the flowers. Her feet are in the flowers. Given that this is probably Texas, I'm going to assume she has shoes because you can't just walk through a field of flowers. There's things that will stick your feet. I've got this nice little shadow right here.
I feel like you're trying to lull me into a false sense of camera security.
Oh, I know I am. You know I am. I'm going to come up here, pulling this little nice bit of shadow right here. There's a great little highlight and shadow that's happening here, so we're going to make sure we capture that. And so you can see how some of these little lines can help you. Let me get a little bit of my darker color here. Help you catch some of what you're trying to do. Wonderful little pocket down here. And let's come and add a shadow there. You can see we are, doing the shadows. We're putting those in. And then we'll come through and we'll put some highlights in. Got another little shadow here. There's definitely one almost like right behind her hand. I'm going to get a little bit darker for under the ribbon. I'm going to come over here and get a little bit darker for under the ribbon, just initially. Weirdly, I like to put a dark color right here on the bow. That just helps me later. Everything above here should be a little bit dark too, because that's where the dress is billowing out from the tie. So we have to create that shadow. You know from the hat, there's going to be more shadowing on that side, on the right side. Because the hat tells you where she should have a shadow. And in some sense, these are things that you can have fun exaggerating. I'm going to get a little water in my brush just to improve the flow of my paint. And get a little more white into it. Make sure we're still going forward. Getting a nice coverage. Now, there's a really fascinating shadow under her collar that comes across. I like, and then you want to make sure you've got one coming down for the seam. And if you want to demark it, you can always come back with a darker value right there. There's a lot more kind of wrinkles and things going on in the dress here. And then plus the pattern. So I thought it was something that you guys would enjoy. I'm going to come up and make sure I've got a shadow on the seam. Pop one there. A little bit under that. Add a little more white to it and come in. Still a shadow, but maybe a lighter shadow. As we come forward. I'm going to use this color as actually highlight right here. And then let's come along our little sleeves.
Pixels! Security dog.
Security. Will someone please give me my treaties? I'll let you break in the house. Security dog. I'm creating another lighter value right here. And what we're going to be doing is we're really looking for the highlights and the lighter values on the dress. It's not the lightest we're going to have. It's not the darkest we're going to have, but it gives us the basis to start blocking. And blocking is important because it helps you see if you have, you know, some good structure that you're building up on. And then if you do, there's a lot to work with. If you don't, there's some stuff to do, right? Now I'm going to add a lot more whites to this, and I'm going to come and make sure that I've got this sort of area there. I'm going to come down here. This little bit is light. And then just paint this here. A very rough first pass.
This is the right word, underpainting?
This is her underpainting. This is very much like what we did with the white, but we're just going a little more in depth with how we're doing it. Right, so with this, you're able then to deal with complicated fabric folds, which can be really overwhelming when you're an artist. And start learning how that kind of effect is done.
All of our audience who has their Sherpa up on the big screen, all of their little fuzzy ones responded to Twix, who was barking.
We're very popular among pets.
Twix barks, and then all of their little dogs responded to Twix barking, and well, it's a cacophony of Sherpa dog barkings.
A cacophony of Sherpa dog barkings. So we're just getting this up there. I'm going to take a little bit of this and make sure that, you know, we're in shadow right here. And this is, you can see it's kind of my darker color. I'm going to definitely go under here, a little bit of darker color. But here's an interesting thing. There's one little part of the collar, and I think this is a very important part of the painting that's in light. Just one little part of that collar. I'm going to go ahead and take this lighter value right here. Make sure I've got it on the sleeve. I remember what I'm doing. And that is how you get her underpainting. Now I'm going to sip my coffee a little bit. Contemplate her. I'm going to hit it real fast with the hair dryer. And then we're going to clean up the lines.
That button. I'll let it sit. So, while she's contemplating that and having coffee and thinking about how we're going to go on to the next thing, I'm going to say thank y'all, because there's a bunch of y'all out here today having a good time painting. So thank you for coming by. Really, really appreciate it. Love having you guys with us. Don't forget, check in the link in the description down below. Cinnamon put a lot of time and effort thinking about what you guys would need and helped build a really, really cool web page out there with lots of resources. So go check that out.
So I've just got a clean brush that's, if you have my brushes, it's the varnish brush. I actually use it for blending and a bunch of other stuff. And I'm going to just clean the little dust that I have.
Technically, that's a floofy brush, right?
It's a floofy brush. You could use any brush you have. You just want it to have clean water.
As long as it's a floofy brush, you should be fine removing chalk.
Yeah. And I'm just, chalk, all that stuff. So that lets you see it cleaned up so you don't get too lost in those lines. And now we begin the second. I'm going to get more sips. Where's honey? Can't get this hot enough.
Studio assistant! You know, if only you had an ember.
I know. It's just like full 30. Yeah.
My coffee is kept.
I got you.
What are you doing?
You're looking at my hat.
What are you doing over there?
Haha, I got him.
I didn't even know where you
were.
All
right. So like at this stage, and this is what I'm doing when I look over here. This is like I'm standing back. This is a good stage of your painting to step back and look at the work. Do you have nice highlights? Do you have nice lowlights? Are things where you basically want them? It's an early start part of the painting, so it's a great time to be able to change anything that you need to change. So it's just nice. If you can't get up, if for some reason you have, maybe you stuck in bed right now, and you can't get up and walk away from your painting, what you can do is take a picture with your cell phone.
You know what I have not done in a long time? Is had our audience wiggle their fingers and wiggle their toes.
Oh my gosh, we haven't had a boom, boom.
We have not. You know what? That's going to be my homework. is now that we got most of the studio up and going, I'm going to have to fix some
Bubble
of that.
machine and music
Bubble
needs to come
machine,
back because we can't lose the good stuff just because we're upgrading.
Yeah, well,
That's
it's just
crazy.
that stuff's been broken, and like now that I've got parts fixed,
I see steam.
Ooh, it's warm.
Now it's warm.
It's not ember warm, but it's warm.
Now it's sippy sippy like coffee should be.
Mm.
So, you're just looking where you are. Everything coming forward here. So what we're going to be doing now is creating the values that really make this very charming girl pop out. And as soon as we get that done in her little pattern and everything, which is easier than you might think to do, then we're going to come forward and start really saturating these spaces and building this world around her. And that saturation is going to pull this all forward, making it feel like you're right in those wildflowers with her. I hope you're doing great at this at home. Remember, if you're new to painting, you may be looking at your painting right now because you're right on it going, this is crazy ugly. And what I want you to know is that there is this ugly stage in all acrylic paintings. You have to finish. That's your only thing that you have to worry about. Just finish. Just do the layers. It is going somewhere. Don't panic in the middle. There's more to do. Are they ready?
Yes, very much so. I'm ready.
Hopefully everyone is loving the website, which has a step-by-step photo of this so that you can really see each stage of it that I made a point of doing this time when I did the study. Hopefully that's helpful.
The many stages.
The many stages that I do. All right, I'm going to get into this. I think I'm going to use my filbert. So this is a number 2 filbert. And I'm going to make a basic hat color. So my hat color is going to be some yellow ochre, some cad yellow mixed together, right, like you do. Because you want those. Get a little more cad yellow. And surprisingly enough, you need to add a little bit of burnt sienna. It kind of oranges the straw. And you need that. Now I've got some black here to darken, and I've got some white here to lighten. And once I have that base color, I'm going to be able to get these next layers on here really, really, really easily. The top of the hat, and I'm going to give myself just like a little black and brown dot right here. Right here is where the circles, see, the circles at the top are going to be orienting around. You got to make sure that you get this set right. Everything else will come in pretty quickly. So you just want that it's not down, it's not in the middle, it's slightly towards the top. So I'm going to get a little of my white and my base color. You can see I've got that here. And I'm going to come around the front. And I'm going to definitely put my glasses back on. See what I'm doing. And using the reference as a guide, like see if you can see where the highlights are. Where are the shadows? Where are those little mid-ranges? What's the brightest part of the hat? Right? These are important things to, make yourself aware of as you're going. I'm going to grab a little bit of this main color. And coming off of this, I will come down, pulling that in. If you need to get more water, you can get that anytime. Really like this hat quite a lot, so enjoy it. And as we're coming around, what's nice about switching from the Cambridge brush to a clean brush is it's going to give you a nice edge to what you're doing. Now I can always add a little bit of black to this mix, right, to darken it up if I need to. Wherever I need to do that, and it's still like part of what I've got going on. So see, I can even make sure that there's some little value underneath the ribbon here. I may go darker than this, actually. An ultramarine blue is shockingly like another way you can go. Lots of ways to darken your yellow. Coming underneath here, making sure that there's a little bit of a shadow. Right, a little bit of a shadow. We want to make sure that we've got a nice shadow bit coming forward, like you might have. There we go. And then a little bit of the lighter color. So here's my brush loaded up with my mid-tone, grabbing a bunch of my white. Clean up my front here a bit. Just making sure the perspective is good. And then I like to come in. Sometimes if I'm having trouble getting enough moisture into the space, like where it's really dry like it is, I will come in and mist it, and then I can mist it a little bit heavier, and that puts the moisture onto the palette, allowing me to get, see, that's much more fluid. Everything gives you different little strategies. Come along here in this edge. Using the nice little yellow. Come around here. Have that mid value. Now we're painting the hat. The hat. Have that right here, this sort of mid value at the top. And there we go. Painting the hat. It's fun to paint the hat. I really do. I like to paint the hat. Those different little values, get that little stuff going. I'm going to get a lot more of my white onto here, maybe a smidge of my yellow. I'm going to make sure that I'm coming here. Catching some of the highlight. Like we're thinking about the hat a lot. Yes, we are. Really like the hat. So see, we've got several layers now in our little hat. That's looking pretty good. Using my brush to blend. I can always come back to that. That's why it's nice to have that middle range of color, the base color that you're working with, right there mixed up, because it's going to let you really, really, really find your way through.
Ding!
Ding! Who's an artist?
I don't know, but somebody is. I'm not sure even what dinged, but something dinged. A USB cable fell loose.
Oh, okay.
And so it just went ding. I don't even know what it was.
I'm going to take a little bit of white right there and create a super nice big highlight.
Oh, that's what it was.
And then I'm going to come here and create another little big highlight. And another little highlight right here at the front. When I have those in, I'm going to rinse out my brush. I'm going to take the clean brush and kind of soften those. See how we're able to soften before the paint dries with just a clean, damp brush? So we're not like stuck with hard lines if we don't feel comfortable with them. Now, once my hat is anywhere that I want it, making sure it is, once your straw hat is anywhere that you want it, I'm going to take this time to take my ultramarine blue and a little of my phthalo blue. I mix them together. We're going to be doing that a lot, mixing ultramarine and phthalo blue together. A good habit to get in if you're painting oceans. And I'll grab a little bit of my burnt sienna. And this is the darker color. I'm going to come here. So this is my hat kind of in shadow. There's the hat band coming back with the blue. So I don't know if you guys noticed, there was sort of a play on words here where it was like the blue bonnet. I was really pleased with myself for doing that. I'm going to take a little ribbon off. Go again. This is our darkest color. Take a little ribbon off. And another little ribbon off. So you see I'm just blowing two little ribbons off to the left. which is kind of interesting because a lot of the energy of the painting is going up towards the right. It's sort of balancing, in my opinion. I'm going to grab a little bit of my white and come back and blend. Let's come here. Now, where the ribbon is maybe coming up towards the sun, go ahead and put a little highlight into it. All right. Come back with just even a little more white. How we're just creating this sense of these ribbons and they have highlights and lowlights. I'm going to get just my ultramarine blue and kind of blend some things. You see how we're doing?
Well, I see how you're doing.
There it is. Coming in, maybe I come across this side. I want there to be enough ribbon where it's exciting to look at.
I think it's exciting. Maybe I'm easily excitable.
No, you're good. You're good. Back into the white. You want it to be blue, but maybe right there. So highlight there. When I have that all done, I can come back with my black. Very carefully go under the hat band. It's a pretty dark shadow. And even into the ribbon. So we've got the ribbons. You just deal with those until you're like, oh, they're pretty. They're not done until you say to yourself, oh, they're pretty. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not quitting. I'm not giving up until my feeling is that they're pretty.
Just piling the layers on.
You just got to have some ribbon, right?
It can be as impasto as you like.
Now, the hat has this kind of crazy detail, and I'm going to get a small detail brush. I'm going to use my number 1 detail for my TheArtSherpa line, and I'm going to get a little bit of my brown and my black together. I'm going to thin them enough, and I'm going to make some marks just here in the shadow area, not everywhere. The shadow part of the hat, just to talk about the texture of this hat. This is a straw hat, right? Maybe put a little thing there. I like to put a little thing there to show where the top of the hat was. I'm just making some little touches to talk about that wonderful texture to her hat. Okay, so now we're going to work her skin tone, and we're going to be working it a lot, probably with these brushes and sometimes a bristle brush to blend it. Oh, it's a hot, dry day today in the studio, Mr. Coney. How's that, everybody? Do we have any questions? Burning questions.
How many Holly Hobbie inspired paintings do you do?
I'm really liking these. We've got 2 so far.
And
but there's probably going to be more because they're fun.
Do you have a good tutorial about composition and perspective?
I do, actually. I have an entire series about that. If you look up the Big Art Quest from 2016, there's actually a whole bunch of stuff that just gives you a beginner's basics of what you need to know about composition and perspective. So it lets you know when stuff is like, well, people tell you it's a rule, but it's kind of like a guideline because there's actually no factual rule behind it. Or when stuff actually is compositionally like required. So it's sort of a good series. I'm pretty proud of it. We're going to be maybe rebooting it though soon. So
and I would say more than a request, more than a comment or a question, this is a unanimous request bordering on riotous action.
What?
And that is, they would really like us to open our store back up.
Oh, okay. No need to riot.
They're like, we want shirts, Sherpa. Like,
I'm not trying to take shirts away in any way.
All it is that we just haven't had time to get the store back open. It's been
really all
challenging.
It's just all it is.
But we'll get it open soon.
I'm going to go back and get some of my skin tone again. So I'm going to make some orange.
Des is working on her pears.
Oh, congrats, Des. I'm going to get a little more of this to make some orange. We've got some nice orange going. All right. And then you can take that and start folding that into your burnt sienna. Gives you a nice base skin tone. And then from here, we're going to lighten with yellow ochre and darken with ultramarine blue, which is why I move this over towards there. And you can use some just straight burnt sienna if you need to as well, because it will absolutely really blend in here well. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some yellow ochre and a little bit of my base skin tone, like you do. I'm going to come to the outside here. And it's real interesting. There's a whole bunch of gorgeous stuff here at the elbow, so I just want to make sure that I've got a little bit of that shading that you would want. Too much of that orange, but we don't mind. Come back and blend it. This is all about getting that sunlight out there. Then you can come into your regular skin tone and kind of blend this in here. Where I can, if I can take a brush, like a damp brush like this one, and soften these edges, I will. You can always get right into your burnt sienna whenever you want. A little bit of it in there. And you can even come in just, you really want to reserve, whenever you're doing darker skin tones, be wary of using too much white into the mix. Zinc white's not so bad, but anything else can make skin seem super ashy and not alive and circulating. Kind of gets like a video game physics kind of sort of thing going. So
Hey, now we're getting better at this.
I'm just going to come through here. Now I can come in with a little bit of this mix to darken my base skin tone. Come here, grab some burnt sienna into it, and get a kind of deep shadow kind of color.
Deep shadow.
Deep shadow. Make sure I've got that happening at the elbow. Coming up into the dress. And then right there at the hand. Nice. A little bit of your yellow ochre. Just want to show some sunlight on here, so I'm going to come and edge this, maybe like right there. Not everywhere, but just somewhere I want to show a little pop of sunlight here and there. How are we doing? I like that. So it's always interesting when you paint skin color, because there are just so many ways to paint skin. There just isn't one way to paint skin. It really is not like a box of crayons. I'm using just burnt sienna here. So I always include, it's on the website. There's a book I highly recommend that has 400 skin tone recipes that I think are very good. And I think if you even go into that, I'm adding some shadow and just refining. If you go into that, you're going to be like, wow, you're never ever going to see skin color the same way again. You're going to be like, there is a lot. Like when you're at the makeup counter next time, you will be like, dude, no idea. There's no way this makeup does this. Or if you've ever had problems finding makeup that blended well, you'll feel so much better. You'll be like, well, it's because they just are not ready. Okay, so I'm super happy with that. I'm going to come and work this hand. The hand is a lot in shadow, and there's a really weird highlight in the photograph on the hand. And it really only barely works in the photograph because it's a photograph, and there's a lot about that our brain just goes, okay. So what I did is I made some changes so that we as painters would not fall into what is a very obvious trap in this photograph. because the photograph is a trap, man. I'm going to bring this burnt sienna over here because it's drying out on me. So I might as
Admiral
well.
Akbar seems to think so.
That's some burnt sienna right there. We're going to get back into this. This is my lighter skin tone with my yellow ochre. And I'm going to come in, hit my outer fingers. I'm going to hit some highlights on my fingers. Then I'm going to hit some highlights a couple of places on my hand, my arms. So there's a highlight on that finger. So what I'm trying to say is that the fingers have some highlights, right, that they're getting hit with. And the arm might be getting some highlights. I think it helps to add a little highlight to the inside thumb. Then I can come in and start working a little bit of the shadow value that I'm going to want. So that finger would be like more in shadow, and I like to bring the hand down, come in. Now I'm going to take a little bit of the blue. I'm going to come and define this elbow here using this dark value under here. So it's very little bits of color. A bit of that dark value right there are giving me my impact. You know what we're doing? Now I need to not be all the way my base skin tone. I got to darken it, but I do want to put some of the lighter color here so that the arm is a little bit better blended. All right, now the top of the knuckles, little trick, not necessary. I'm going to come across here and just pop just the smidgiest of a highlight there. See how we're doing? And you can even get like yellow ochre. And then pop a little bit, some highlights there to just help those features show. While I've got all this worked out, I'm going to find my detail brush I had out earlier. I'm going to get my burnt sienna and my black again, very thin. And I'm going to come here under the hand, defining that dark shadow under my thumb. And make sure that the arm is showing those shadows. You guys see that? I know you can because John's making sure you guys can see it.
I try.
John is like, he's like, no, I totally got you. And I'll go ahead and add a little bit of the shadows to the fingers. Just so that that hand, oh, that's so nice. So that hand, you know, has just a little bit of light that it needs to show everything you need to see. Now, I'm still not done with the legs. I actually might move back into this on my legs. I'm going to get some of my base skin tone. I'm going to add some yellow ochre to it. I'm going to come to the end here and make sure that this leg has like this great highlight to the outside. And I'm going to make sure that this leg has this fantastic highlight. Got too much of that. I'll get some of this. So back into that shadow color, right? Making sure that we've got a nice. And we're shading. See how we're shading? Right into that. Right under the skirt. Shade the front. And see, because the paint is wet, because of the brush I'm using, there's some nice blending happening. And we have just the hint of some light. And that's really all you need is the hint. Because these are going to, I just squeezed out some water. I'm just softening this. These are going to be covered in flowers. And so there's just a lot of forgiveness that you have right here. There we go. I will go ahead and softly blend. Make sure that that is. I'm using the scruffliness of the brush to create that little highlight.
Scruffliness.
So see, we got the back of the calf and the back of the calf. I love it. They're like a glowing. We got this and this and this, and now I got to do the dress. How are you guys doing? You holding up?
I think we're holding up.
It's a whole journey here, but like the lavender girl, we're going to get this one.
Get it done.
Get it. Get it. She's gorgeous, and she deserves to be in her field of flowers. Let's work out our beautiful, beautiful dress. So we still have some of our gray color, and we don't need that much. And I'm going to go through and take just my darkest gray, and in a couple places put some weirdly deep shadows that I expect to have. I'm going to tap some here at the sleeves. They're not going to be everywhere. Something right here underneath this. Just a little bit darker underneath the... And then a couple places, you know, they're just pulling that down. Just to make sure we've got just a little bit of that. Just a bit. Just a little bit. All right. Color is out. Rinsing out. Taking just a smidge. All right. Just a smidge. So much dry brushing. All right. So I'm looking for a gray that's a little lighter than what I've already gotten. All right. And so I'm going to come here and we're going to just start talking about this nice white dress. See, I'm just brushing very softly. Brushing really softly. Putting in these little shadows. But we're lightening it up because the dress is very light. Still has to be dark enough to be in shadow, but you want it to be the shadow that you'd expect to see on a white dress. I'm just enforcing those, refining that. Yeah. Lightening that up. Still there, but we're just making sure it's not quite as extreme. But now we know where they are. It'll really help us when we go to paint. So then I'm going to just keep lightening. I'm going to get this much lighter color. You can always grab a smidge of your ultramarine, but you just want the smallest amount, right? To even like kind of cool that yellow. We're going to play that against, say, you know, a much brighter yellow. Come across here. Come to the top of this. Showing that wonderful little space. In front of that. All right, bringing that there. Soft pressure, all of this. I am using a very soft pressure throughout this whole thing. Soft pressure. And like maybe right here, there's a little pocket that's a little bit highlighted. There's a lot that's highlighted on this sleeve. On the outside edge. But I do want my shadows. I don't want to lose all my shadows. Got tie. And this part of that tie. I'm going to make a little bow space there. Little tie there. Another little tie here. You're going to see me create the little gathering ruffles. They are done of the dress. And these layers suddenly start to become our very best friend ever. Whew. Everyone doing all right?
Yes, very, very good.
Let's see, we're brushing that down.
You're using a pretty firm brush, huh?
Yeah, because I work with heavy body paint, I use a firm brush. If you use too soft of a brush, you can end up working very, very hard for every bit of light that you have. Right here. There we go. Get a nice little shadow space there. I love doing this. Her dress is like a serious lot of fun to paint. A little bit more white onto there. Come through that outer edge. You can see we're just finding those little highlights. Anybody else just pleased as punch with her skin tone?
Oh, yeah. Turned out really nice.
Yeah, I love that. Gonna bring that little highlight there. A little bit here. Let's catch this and then make sure that we maybe bring some right there. And then through here, this part of the dress is actually sort of interesting. It's actually caught in some highlight. Check that out. How rocking is her dress right now?
Yeah.
It's fun, right?
Very
Points
much.
out. We're getting there, guys. We are getting there. So the next part, I'm going to take a little bit of this gray color. I'm going to lighten it one more shade. It's not a pure white. And I'm going to grab a bit of yellow. You guys see that? So it's a bit warmed. Very light. Got a little bit too much on my brush. So I'm going to wipe off and grab a load. I'm going to come to the top of that sleeve right there. And catch a little bit of this. Like you do. Pull in a little bit of that. So you'll notice that these warmed highlights, this collar, these warmed highlights do some really special stuff for us, where they even show, like, even in the bright sun layers, some of the wrinkles and some of the wonderfulness that can happen on our dresses. I love doing it. Catch a little bit of wrinkle there. And that is just so much fun. A little bit right there. Definitely outside here, front side of the bow. Look at that. Who has the prettiest dress?
I like it a lot.
Fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I think too, it's somewhat fun to just paint this fabric. Like, painted folded fabric has some real joys when you're doing this. And I bet the number one question you guys have is like, I don't really get how we get all the pattern on there.
I was watching you do that earlier. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. When we get the little pattern on, that's going to be real fun.
It was really strange going on. I did not think it was going to come out.
You didn't?
Uh-uh.
Really?
Yeah, not until the pattern was done. I was like, wow, how's that gonna go?
It can seem a little overwhelming, right? If you're watching me and you're like, I don't know how that would finish out, then give yourself a little bit of a break if ever you're feeling in your painting like you're not sure how it's going to come out.
Sherpa, what you thinking there, girl?
Like where?
I don't know. You're putting all those little blue speckled bits of stuff all over your pretty dress there. How's
Oh,
that
when
gonna
I
go?
did that,
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about right now. I was
No,
like,
I was just like, what are you doing? I was like, okay, I'll come back later.
you're so funny. You're so funny.
I didn't see the reference photo either. I was just like, huh. There's a
Yeah,
plan.
but when you get away from it, then it feels like that little pattern, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It really does.
Okay. So here's the craziness that you're about to do. You're going to take a little bit of your blue and your ultramarine blue and just a smidge of your purple. Just a bit of that. Okay. And you're going to have some dark version of this, and then you're going to add some white to some of it and a light version. So you guys see how you have some dark and some light to work from?
Yep.
Where you have highlights, you put the light blue. Where you have shadows, you put the dark blue. You're going to use your small little number 1 brush here. All right. If it's too bright, if it's too saturated, you can gray it with the burnt sienna. What you want is a dark value and a light value. Now, go. I'm going to make little dots. Not in every bit of the shadow. I just like to place them around. You will now have the experience that John had where he was like, wait, what are we doing? The thing is like this little added bit where you make the dots a little bit darker and in the shadows, it actually is pretty cool. And you don't need to add everything, right? You're not painting, you could, if you are the type of person that would like to, yes, you can paint every individual flower very carefully.
Count the flowers, paint them.
You could, and it wouldn't hurt your painting, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely, you're not breaking some art rule, or there isn't some like, oh, you were supposed to loosen up and you didn't, and now your painting is not as valid. It's not how any of it works. I'm gonna just, and so the darker blue allows me to come into some of the areas that are in shadows and add the blue dots and have them be a little bit believable. If you do the light blue all the way through, it's too much.
Unbelievable blue dots.
Well, yeah.
You know what those are called?
Stitch. Oh, Stitch? What?
He's an unbelievable blue dot.
He is. He's the coolest thing ever. Ohana is why everybody gets good art education. All right.
Segue to random things.
So I put in some dark blue dots, right? Now I'm going to come through and I'm going to get my little brush loaded up with some lighter blue dots. They're just slightly lighter, right? That way, I'm putting little flowers. I'm saying, oh, there's little flowers here and there.
Here's a funny question.
Okay.
Only because I'm in here with you all the time.
Okay.
So, Paula would like to know.
Hi, Paula.
Cinnamon, do you talk to yourself out loud when you're not teaching us?
Yes, and I hear about it from my whole family. Kids really especially think it's crazy.
Well,
but I did that before I ever taught on YouTube. I'm a muser in my studio, and so if something's going on, I'm inclined to muse about it.
Mm.
So that's definitely a thing that would happen.
It's not limited to the studio.
No.
Cooking?
It's not. Showers especially a bad place.
Showering's another one, yeah.
Do you ever have that thing? Okay, so like here's the truth. I'm one of those people like I'll have a conversation with somebody and I'll have something I wish I said. So then as a type of self-therapy, I'll have that conversation again where I'm infinitely clever and more ready for it in the shower. And then my family will come by, right? And just like take that moment and like twist it for me because they'll be like, who are you talking to? And then you realize like that your crazy is out for everybody to see. That's always awkward.
Family life.
Family life.
Bobby would like to know if you could use the dotting tool for this.
You could use the dotting tool for this.
You could make very neat dots.
You could, and it would be also okay. I liked her little kind of prairie dotted dress, and so I wanted to capture some of that feeling because I felt like the flowers on her dress and the flowers in the field, I don't know, it all worked for me. I'm going to take the green that I have left over and a bunch of my cad yellow. And I'm going to get my white and here, loading it up. I'm going to run a little green around. I feel like it was the little green that worked it for me. That was when I felt like I had it. Because these are little green leaves, right? It's like fun for me. And then when you get back from it, it's just really charming.
Tracy said, her psychology professor said it's very therapeutic and good for yourself to have a habit of talking to yourself, unless you start hearing voices replying to yourself in your head.
Even if I did, I don't listen to anybody, so I don't know why I'd listen to them. Like, that's totally my question about it. It's like I don't question why like you could hear voices. I think that's really possible. I just like I'm amazed that like I'm like I don't listen to anybody. I don't know why I'd listen to the disembodied voice.
I'm having a mild panic. What do you mean voices? I hear voices all the time. What is voices inappropriate?
I'm making a little slightly darker green, and I'll put around a couple places in the shadows just to make sure that we've got, you know, a couple of those values. See, I'm just touching it all around, right? And not. Last touch to the dress. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Yeah? Last touch to the dress.
That's looking really nice.
Come get a little bit of your blue, darker blue, up on your little detail brush, and carefully outline your collar. That's the trim on her collar.
That really makes it pop.
I like it. There she goes. So we can sit back and look at her. Let's take a look at her, and then we're going to put in the flowers, which is the fun part that we were all waiting for. Come. I hope you're tripping out on how awesome you are. I'm feeling pretty good about how I am. I hope you're tripping out on how awesome you are.
Yeah, it's turned out really good.
Do we have any questions before I get into flowers?
Let's see here. Questions. Most everyone's just we're talking about it's good and bad to, you know, the habits of talking to oneself and making a good positive practice of those things. So,
I mean, it's been a while. It's been decades. I did it as a small child. It has never stopped. I don't think it's something like I would easily give up.
Everyone in chat is agreeing that these are good practices to have, and they enjoy these.
That's good to hear.
That's
good to hear.
But we have good, healthy psychological practices in the Sherpa.
You know, and there's also the thing too, like, there's the thing that your worst self would say that you don't want to say, so you say the right thing in public, but maybe you need, you know, there's all you know what I'm saying? Like, we're all striving to be the best person that we can be. So
you really only have grasses left and some flowers.
Yeah, just a few things. You guys ready to do it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we may have to put out a little more paint here and there to get the next bit done, but we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, we are.
I'm going to put out a couple things. I think the red, we're going to put out the quinacridone now. It's just actually really nice into the CAD red medium. When we do these Bluebonnets, it just takes them, I mean, the Indian paintbrushes, it takes them to the next level. We're going to start putting in some of the details here, the grass, and we're making this then much more defined as we move forward. And I think we're going to use whatever little small brush we're using.
What are you looking for there, Sherpa?
This little fellow.
There it goes.
The number 4. The number 4. So in this particular case, I'm going to pull out a little bit of my red, right? And a lot of things I could do with it. I can just take this little green over here if I can get any on the brush, not too much, right? And just tone it back just a smallest smidge ever, right? And you're going to make little more defined in this mid-range little spots of color. You're not trying to paint like the distant flowers that we see. These are mid, so they're somewhat seeable as individual little guys.
Oh, no. I think I'm going to sneeze.
Okay.
Okay, a little better there.
All right. How are we doing? Are we okay?
Yeah.
Do we feel like we're getting enough support to succeed at doing this painting at home?
Jody loves your cat necklace, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I'm very fond of it too. I'm going to get my phthalo blue and my ultramarine, and I'm going to make some a little more thought out little, see how we're doing?
Yeah.
Spots here too. These are like individual little spots saying, oh, I can see that. Oh, that's like definitely there. And little individual bits. The bits. Just the bits,
Just
please.
the bits, please.
So Steven Universe. Making these. And I try to do both on both sides. Just because, and I always try to get a little bit of white into that because, you know, Bluebonnets.
Now, I do believe in Texas, the Indian paintbrush is protected along with the bluebonnet.
Yeah. Yeah, all the wildflowers are. There's a buttercup and...
Cannot pick them.
No, don't pick them. You can plant them, though.
Yeah,
They
you can
sell
plant...
a wildflower pack. You can get that.
That's right. You can plant them on your own yard and pick those. For sure.
So we've got some little flowers that have started to think about being themselves here. And that's what you're doing. You're just making sure you got some little flowers to think about being themselves. Always be yourself when you're a flower.
Unless
I used to love the bloom where you are planted thing.
You'll always be a flower, unless if you're a flower, unless you can be a unicorn.
Something like that. I'm going to take a little bit of my darkest green and add a little bit now more of my phthalo green. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to do this line of... So what's happening here is this is where there's almost like this strong run of grass for her. There we go. And I'm doing this in the distance. And I'm making little grass strokes. See how we're doing? This is wild, distant stuff that we've got going on. And then as I come forward, I'm going to add just a little bit there. I'm going to make a more kind of grass stroke. But you'll notice I'm not painting each individual blade. You can kind of catch that. We do see some individual blades in this space between her and the flowers in front of her. But here we're just going to begin the dark value of the grass, and we're going to just do this little stroke here. It's just a little stroke. A little stroke right there. You can even start to soften that edge. See, the minute you soften that edge of the legs, doesn't it look like they're standing in flowers now?
Yeah.
You don't feel like you've got cut off feet. You feel like you have context for why feet are not visible.
That's an important difference.
It's a super important difference. It's the most important difference. Everything from here to the end of the painting, I have to say, is just the whole reward for doing the painting. Well, besides, you know, hanging it and being like blown away at what you're truly, truly capable of doing. So this gives you a good excuse to get rid of the last of that dark color green. I do like to work some brighter phthalo into it. I may even turn this to the side so I can just really fill this up. You got to fill it up. And again, if you're at all like having trouble finding each individual step, check that website. I'm really glad that I did the step-by-step there to show these phases. Even though we've done a few little maybe more flourishes for the lesson than the study. Sometimes, you know, you take it a little further in the lesson than the study. It's going to give you what you need to know about, like, oh, around here I should have this done. Around here I should have that done. I think it's going to help you guys really succeed. You happy?
I am.
Are they happy?
They seem to be all in agreement that this is a pretty good way of going about making flowers. And they're liking watching you do it.
It's fun. Now, one thing when you're doing this, if you'll notice, I don't make like a pattern. I don't neatly go across in little rows, right? I put this in and then I try to randomize that as much as possible. Now, as I'm going forward, I'm going to take a little bit of this muted green, some more of the phthalo blue, and a lot more of this yellow ochre. And I'm going to begin to...
There's a lot of comments saying that the step-by-step that you put up on the website is very helpful.
So glad. I really felt like it would help us get, like, have the most chance for success, you know, for this piece. You can see I'm just going along here, coming through. Sometimes it can help also to do some cad yellow into the mix. See how it is right there?
Yeah.
And that just helps pull it forward. There we go. We're just pulling this forward. And what I want here is I want little areas where the grass feels deep, where we begin to feel a sort of sense of clumps and space. And so it's like the temptation is to maybe rush through, but you don't want to.
No, you need those clumps in space.
Yeah. Now I'm going to add a little bit of light to her legs, and then off the side of her legs, I'm going to have a little bit of light. But actually, we're going to have kind of a bit of a shadow sort of casting off into the right, much like on her hat. Isn't that fun? That's going to create a little bit of dynamite drama that you can enjoy. So in this mix, little bit of cad yellow ochre, right? Our green, some of our green is tinted with like a little bit of the burnt sienna. So that's how we're getting that. Going. And you can see that we've got these bits of darker grass that we've got coming forward. And then these highlights of grass that we've got going on. Pretty awesome stuff. And not an obvious pattern that we're dealing with. Now I'm going to come back through with some deep dark color and kind of refine some of this. Can you guys see where I'm finding little patches and making them a little more noticeably dark colored? And that's a good thing to do, you know, just finding that space where you're like, oh, there's a little shadow here. And that's going to help it feel like the thick carpet of flowers that you're probably going for. I'm going to rinse out. We have one last highlight space to do. So it's a little bit of our cad yellow and our yellow ochre. Right, so not just a pure cad into phthalo, some phthalo green. And then in this particular case, I'm going to get just a smidge, a little more yellow ochre, of white into this to get like a, there it is, just a slightly lighter color, if that makes sense. So see how we're getting this like lighter? Not every bit of the grass needs it, but some of it does. Catch those little highlights where you can. Like even right here, there's something charming in the painting, yeah? A little bit right there. I think that's important to talk about the light that happens, and then especially around her dress. And the saturation of these colors here in this part of the painting is what's really going to pull it forward and give it a lot of strong art dimensionality.
Joanne was saying that she has had luck with those microfiber towels. How have you been liking?
I like them.
Yeah?
They're working out really well. I'm glad they somehow found their way into the studio.
super absorbent, low cost. Yeah. We buy bulk microfiber towels from the auto store because they're oftentimes used in detailing. And once they hit the ground and pick up dirt, they oftentimes have to throw them away because any dirt on them will scratch the paint. So
But not in this case.
microfiber, yeah, in this case, they're great for us. So, but they really super absorb and suck material into them. So they're great for using as acrylic rags.
You guys ready for the fun?
The fun?
The
to
fun.
add some colors?
The fun. It's a good time to change your water if you need to, if it's dirty. You want some clean water to work.
And you dropping some hints?
Huh?
Are you dropping hints? Stunt. Do I need to come change paint?
No, I had some.
Okay.
I put it aside. So I'm going to pull out some yellow. I'm saving some of the yellow. I want that there. So the base mix is going to be a little bit of my cad red and my magenta. And what I find is that first, before I really get the yellow into it, I'll come here and I'm going to just tap a couple places. I'm talking about, these are a little bit further away, right? Make sure you make some go off the canvas so that they're not too, and these are, this slightly less like focused, but not quite as focused as what's going to be like right here. Right? And I'm just touching lightly. Just touching lightly. The play of red, blue, and green is what makes this work for us. Like I think as a species. Where we're like, yes, this is good.
Is that a 2 or a 4 Cambridge?
This is a 4.
4.
I'm just, sometimes I have to wipe and then load a little bit differently so that I can just touching stuff, right? So you can see there's just a little bit of yellow into that mix. And it just, that combo just looks like distant little Indian paintbrushes, doesn't it? If they get too orange, then you get back into the red. But they play well. So you're just like, oh, need it darker? Just go get right into the magenta. So where you need to imply that they're a little bit shadowed, you just put them in the magenta. Like right here, they would be a little bit in the magenta. And that shadow was in the magenta. But where they are out in the sun, you can do the mix of the cad, the magenta, and the yellow. Just on your little spot. Remember, places can have like a little extra cluster. Rinse, and guess what you get to do now? The blue.
The blue.
So I'm going to take the ultramarine and the phthalo blue. You can get a little diox if you need it for deepness. And first I come through with my dark value. This one you'll have to come back and be a little bit fussy with. The reason is because Bluebonnets have a range from a very dark value in the spikes up to these little white tips, and it's important to catch all of that. Plant as many of these as you feel your field needs. It could be solid. You wouldn't mess it up. Be a wildflower gardener.
Wildflower gardener?
Mm-hmm.
Can't I be a tame flower gardener?
No.
I don't like going out late at night. I'm very, very mild anymore. I'm tame. I'm not up for the big parties.
Not up for the big parties?
No, I'm tame now.
Silly man. Love it.
Twix agrees. A little huffy snuff. She's like,
I know. Even the dog's like, yeah. Did you hear him oscillate? Now, when you have the dark value in and you have what you feel is like a good dispersion of flowers, right? Then you're going to come and you're going to need a lot more white into your blue. A lot more. And then come here and make sure you tip some of the tops of these. Now we're done.
I do see how you.
And it's okay to pop that around and be like, oh, what's up? I feel like you can. I'm just being very gentle. This is a gentle process. Super gentle process. Here. All right. There we go. Rinse that out really, really well. And get back into your filbert. The first thing I'm going to do with my filbert is I'm going to take out a little bit of my green, and I'll definitely get some burnt sienna into it. Maybe a little bit of yellow ochre. And I'm going to begin by putting these little sort of dashes. Can you see these?
Yeah.
So these are my little mid-space along the legs and a little bit behind dashes. I try not to take out all my dark values or light values. I'm just trying to show these more defined leaf shapes as they're coming through here. And as I go forward, maybe I get a lot more cad yellow into it. I'll miss that to make sure that I've got enough to go. You know, and come in and like right here, like you still want it to be green. Maybe some of these will have a brighter little highlight. And sometimes I find I have to move the canvas to the side or up to get the style of dash that I'm looking to get.
You have to dash with style.
Sometimes I gotta dash with style, yo.
I'm a styleless dasher.
Rinse that out. That's just gonna help integrate the next part of the flower, which is a little cad red, a little magenta, and a bit of yellow. Let's go. These are more defined, aren't they?
Now, are you using that
Number 2 filbert.
No. Atmospheric perspective?
Yes, this is atmospheric perspective. This is how we're getting dimensionality into our painting.
Okay, so I kind of guessed that's what it was, but could you explain what that is?
So I do have a whole big art quest about it. So you can definitely go catch that video if you want it. But there's lots of perspectives. The kind of perspective that we do with lines, right, where we converge lines to show objects as being distant or receding. But another type of perspective we use in landscape painting is atmospheric perspective. And that's where we observe the world as it is. So things that are far away are not as saturated. They can be almost blended into each other. We push those colors back. We recede those things. The way that clouds, you know, work towards the horizon, the curve of the world. And these are little things that we can observe as artists to help us be more informed in how we paint our world.
And this is a great example of atmospheric perspective, the way that those flowers go from being sort of muted and dull in the background to bright and poppy right there in that foreground.
Yeah, and you want to do some big poppy ones in that foreground that are big, right? Just put them as we go. They're lots of fun to do. I think it's fun to have one coming up here. I'm going to get a little more red into that, but I like the one coming up the back of the leg, just showing that. just a few little petals there, I think are a lot of fun.
It's interesting how when objects touch and overlap on a canvas, they create drama.
They do. And also object placement creates perspective. We feel that she's ahead of these flowers because they overlap on her.
That's true. Is that that's some sort of other kind of perspective.
It's still part of that. Still part of it. You know, as we go forward, we can make these flowers. You think about how they're shaped and paint some of them in a more focused way.
Focus, focus, focus,
Focus, focus. You know, you look at the reference, you can see that sort of happening where the paintbrushes are bigger. Now, in behind her legs, where I'm trying to talk about shadow, I might use more of the magenta. See how I'm doing?
Yeah.
To say, oh, those are more in those shadows. We're almost done, actually. Which makes me sad. Grab some yellow. I think it's important to have orange in with your paintbrushes.
Orange.
I think it shows.
It does.
Now, I'm going to dry, and the reason I'm going to dry is I don't want the red to get into my blue and gray it out. So by drying it, I ensure that the up-close Bluebonnets are super blue.
Gotcha. Wow, guys. Well, this has been quite a painting today. We've still got a little bit to go, but man, I wanted to say thank you for hanging out with us. It's been really fantastic. Don't forget, check in the link in the description down below. She has done a whole bunch of really, really great resources for you on the step-by-step, the how-to. There's been some downloadable pages, a bunch of resources that she's put out on our website. So do take a chance to check those out before you run away. Run away! Run away!
Run away! I'm going to get some of my blue. I need my blue up here.
Your blue?
My blue.
What is blue?
My phthalo blue. It's
Phthalo.
really saturated, going to pop in this environment blue. I'm going to get a little white into this mix, but not too much. And I'm going to start putting some very defined little Bluebonnets in this space here.
Now, if you were, say, a Bluebonnet fan, you could just go all Bluebonnets.
Yeah.
Although
you just wanted this to be a field of Bluebonnets, you could be a California poppy fan and just have it be all California. Look. Let's just do all the flowers with little girls and hats all in the flowers. Let's just do that.
You could just, whatever team flower you're on, you can go for it.
And I think we should do more of these. Do we think we should do more of these?
I like the flower paintings.
I'm really enjoying these girls in hats. The nameless girls in hats. I love it. I love this. I think it's a lot of fun.
I'm enjoying the atmospheric perspective of the flowers.
Are you?
It is interesting for me to say.
Doing some heavier blue right here. And that's the other thing you can do. Remember to take some of your flowers off the canvas, moving forward and to the side. If you're too contained within your canvas, things are going to feel like they're not part of the real world.
Oh, yeah. So it's got to feel like it just flows right off the edge.
Yeah, as if there's more. Now, when you have a happy amount of color on there, I want you to get a lot more white all on your brush. And on the top of some of your Bluebonnets, you're going to touch that with white.
Oh, that just does a little bit of little highlight on there.
Well, what it is the Bluebonnets have they're a lupine flower, and they have little white tips.
Okay.
So what makes them feel like Bluebonnets is that blue and white play.
That was cool. What did you say they were? A lupine flower?
Yeah, they're a lupine flower, and they have a little blue and white tip. So if you got to get the blue and white for them to feel like they're Bluebonnets.
I forget you took that. I didn't want to call it a gardening course in college. You took what was it? It was a biology course that had to do with botany. That's what it was.
Yeah, but I was terrible at botany. I just like to garden.
Well, I think that's how
as you well know, because I made you take me to the garden store all the time.
Well, you took botany because you were into gardening, and
yes, didn't work out. Those things apparently do not necessarily translate. I thought, well, I can tell you about floribundas and grandifloras and tell you about cutting and all this stuff. And I thought, oh, this will really help me. And it did not help me. All right. I feel like we see the flowers. And you can see how using a reference photo, if you look at the reference photo and you look at what we have now, you can see how we can make something more. We are more than when we're photographers, right? Because we have, nowadays, photographers have all kinds of artistic tools, so they do this too. But you can do more than just capture on film a moment. You can really, 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 I'm going to get some yellow here and come to the corner and sign if it'll let me.
That's what you want.
There we go. It's there, but not so like it takes away from the whole painting that I just spent forever doing. Turn around and take a look at our beautiful painting. Okay, so you can see how she's just, which way? This way. You can see how she's just a little more than what was going on in the photograph. Not that the photograph wasn't perfect, not that the photograph wasn't beautiful, but she's just a little bit more. I hope you found this helpful. I really hope that you can get right on through and do her and you're like, man, I can do this. 3 hoots are my new hoot. I want all 3 hoot paintings. And everyone goes, no, more 1 hoots. 1 hoots will continue on and 2 hoots will continue on. But I just want you guys to feel like every 3 hoot painting is something you could do and that you have the support you need. I am really, really, really proud of everybody here. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. And I want to see you at the easel really soon. Bye.